Welcome to the Art of Conscious Living TV. Today's guest is an incredible, ordinary man who's living an extraordinary life. His name is Quinn Eaker. And I'm so very pleased to have him via Skype from Austin, Texas. We're going to take a moment now to look at this video clip.
I wanted to take this opportunity to give a little commentary, a little perspective on the Feeding the Homeless event we had on Saturday. It was an extreme success. People around the world are, in support, in gratitude for the event, tuning in on Facebook, things of that nature. And number one, I'd like to say that yes, it was a success. We dished over 600 servings of extremely healthy food, extremely tasty food, and extremely sustainable food. And this is really important for me because we weren't just giving free food to people. We were giving them healthy food. We were giving them delicious food. And we were giving them sustainable food. And all three of those things are facets that homeless people don't normally get, and actually most people don't normally get.
I don't know what they're doing, but they don't want us to eat, and these people are caring about us, and we love them. Thank you.
We have the right. We have the right. It is a natural right. It is a birthright to give, to support our fellow man, our fellow woman, our brothers and our sisters. In fact, it's a duty. It is our duty to support our community, our family, our brothers and our sisters.
I've been here 7 years, and we've been very consciously cultivating a sustainable life for many of these years. And every single year we're more sustainable than we were the year before, we're more successful than we were before, and we help more people than we did the year before.
It's a beautiful day, the beginning of spring. And we've got a nice full raised bed here full of carrots, which is a great thing because we love carrots. But also because it's so full, the carrots won't really develop full maturity. So if you want to have nice big carrots, you've got to go through and sort of weed them out. And what you do is you just, sort of sporadically pick one carrot top. And some of them will be bigger than others. That one's actually a double carrot sort of intertwined. It's really beautiful. Let's look at this. Show the video. That's so pretty. So we use greenhouses here in the fall, winter, and early spring. We use them in the fall to extend the life of our summer crops. We use them in the winter to actually grow things that we couldn't otherwise grow in the winter time. And then we use them in the spring to start our seeds a month or 2 months before the actual planting would take place. So even if you don't grow in a greenhouse all fall and all winter long, a greenhouse in the spring is really important because you can start your seeds a month or 2 months early. And so when you plant your plants, you've got a plant that's already a month, 2 months big, and you're going to get production in the first month of planting versus having to wait 1 to 3 months. Whether you eat meat or whether you don't eat meat, if you buy your food from a grocery store, you are participating, you are voting for, you are paying for, you are supporting all of the worst things that are happening on this earth right now. All of the death, all the destruction that is happening. 1.5 acres of deforestation is happening every single second. Every single second, 1.5 acres of deforestation is taking place on this earth. That is happening because of the food you're buying at grocery stores. In South America, in Central America, in Asia, all over the world, there's mega corporations that are going in, they're clear-cutting whole forests, and they are planting soy crops. The most important part about sustainability is not relying upon a blueprint, not relying upon a system or a formula, but actually comprehending how life works.
It's quite a serious business when the police feel like they need a SWAT team to rob you of your blueberries, but I guess that's the kind of society we live in. You know, for some reason, I'm not feeling any safer.
Earlier in the week, we were speaking with Quinn Eaker. His property, the Garden of Eden, was the subject of a SWAT raid. They attempted to violate his property rights, saying that he was growing a marijuana factory there. And basically, because he was someone that knew his constitutional rights and how to apply them, he was able to turn the law back around and establish it how it should be, for the people, by the people. Okay, Quinn, so let's get into how people can empower themselves and actually apply the laws that are there and meant to protect them.
You know, it's really sad. It's really sad what the current state of affairs have come to, because, you know, back in the day when our country was so great, the reason why it was so great is because the government was there to serve and protect the people, and the government employees, the public servants, were there to be the servants of that, of that. So, you know, the reason why our country was so great is because we had freedom. It was by the people, for the people. And, you know, in the beginning, government officials were, you know, they were like heroes. You know, back in the day, the sheriff was the greatest man in the town, the person that everyone could trust and everyone could rely on. And, you know, back in the day, you know, the mayors, you know, were the people that everyone trusted the most and liked the most and had the best interest of the town or village or community at hand. You know, and the only thing that the government did was, you know, just serve and protect the people's rights. Well, now, you know, we're in a situation where basically the government's only job now is to tax, license, and regulate everything. And that's why now, you know, we've got obviously all of this blatant violation of rights happening all over the place. You know, we're not the only ones here. Mm-hmm. And that's part of why I started studying the law myself, is because it became very apparent to me that the government isn't actually following the law. And if I can't enforce the law, then it's definitely not going to be enforced for me.
We're living within our rights. We're not harming anybody. This is our land. You know, we're feeding our family, and we have the right to do all of this. If you have any bona fide fact that you're willing to testify under penalty of perjury that we're actually doing something wrong, that we are violating some sort of real law, because a maxim in law is that any statute, code, or law that is repugnant to our inherent rights is void ab initio.
The real truth is that, you know, we own this land outright, so you know, we're free men and women here, and we know that. And part of being free is being, you know, secure in our person and our property, being able to pursue our, you know, pursuit of happiness, our spiritual path, to provide for our family. And part of the way we're pursuing our spiritual path and providing for our family is by living this, you know, very sustainable life. And this sustainable life that we live involves a lot of things that are in violation of their statutes and their codes. You know, so what we did is we, you know, notified them that, you know, we cut the bushes not because we're complying, but because we're honorable and we agree. And we're not complying with these because you don't have any jurisdiction or authority to make us.
Hey here, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Well, let's start at the very beginning of your life as a young boy. I know a lot about your extraordinary life that you're living. So let's start as a young boy, when the seed was first planted. What was your life like at that time?
Well, you know, as a child, I had a relatively alternative life. I had a lot more freedom in many ways than a lot of children had. A lot more opportunities that many children never had. You know, really, when I began to live my extraordinary life, my truly empowered, awakened life, actually was, you know, in my late teens, and you know, really that came from actually a deep pain, a deep misery, you know, a very dark existence that I was living for many years. So, you know, I would say that when I was a younger child, I had a pretty happy, a pretty enjoyable, a pretty free existence. And I don't know whether that was because, you know, of you know, just the different phases, you know, of my existence. I really feel like contrast is a very powerful part of life. And in order to know just true bliss and true passion and true love, it's also important to be able to experience the darkness, to be able to experience the pain. And so I've definitely had that contrast in my experience.
So at what age did this suffering come about?
I would say like from about the time I was 11 to 12 years old to the time I was 17 years old was pretty much a pretty miserable life. I was pretty dead. I was pretty, you know, pretty in pain, pretty depressed, real angry. You know, before that, my memories are, you know, of playing, you know, of being happy to be alive, of being a child. You know, so obviously when you become a teenager, you know, your mind changes, your perspective changes, your interests change, you know, hormones and chemistry inside of the body change. You know, there's all sorts of factors. Mm-hmm. You know, one consistent in life is that change is a consistent. So, you know, I'm not, you know, too big on trying to nitpick and, you know, figure out and label and define, you know, every single thing. But I do know for a fact that, you know, as a younger child, I played a lot. I had an alternative, you know, upbringing. I, you know, didn't have to go to school. You know, didn't have to, you know, follow a curriculum. You know, I didn't have, you know, a bedtime. There was all sorts of, you know, aspects of freedom that I had that most children didn't have. You know, as a teenager, you know, even though I still had that freedom, I was not happy. I was actually miserable. And, you know, this family that at one point in time in my childhood, I, you know, loved and, you know, enjoyed being around and got, you know, got along with really well, you know, that relationship changed, and I didn't enjoy being at home. I didn't enjoy being around my family. You know, it was actually a huge like point of anger and resistance for me was my family and being around my family. So, you know, regardless of what it was exactly or why that happened, it did happen. And, you know, I was able to experience that contrast of, you know, of being able to experience that darkness and that pain. And I feel like most people in their lives experience pain, experience fear, experience darkness. Maybe not everybody gets depressed or feels depression. I've also, you know, gone through extended periods of time where I'm, you know, deeply depressed. You know, but it does happen. I remember as a teenager, you know, being in that deep pain. I remember thinking to myself that even with how painful it is, I would rather be aware of what is and be in that pain than be in denial or unconsciousness or ignorance of what is. And, you know, bliss, you know, the ignorance is bliss, that whole quote, that whole thing. I never liked that. I never agreed with that. I never wanted that for myself. And a huge part of why I was so miserable as a teenager was because I looked out at the world and there was nothing that I admired. There was nothing that, you know, inspired me. I didn't have any heroes. I didn't have anything that I looked at and was like, that's the life I want to have. You know, that's what I want to do when I grow up. You know, it was all just like everywhere I looked, I saw, you know, humans that were not healthy.
that they were sick. You know, even the humans that were considered healthy, I didn't resonate as healthy. The humans that were considered as successful, I didn't resonate as success. It was just a whole state of consciousness that every human I'd ever met was living by, that was adhering to. And I just didn't like it. I didn't agree with it. I wasn't inspired by it. In fact, I was, kind of disgusted by it. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I've got to live in this world for 80 more years. It's like I was really pretty hopeless.
Quinn, what comes to mind when you're speaking that puberty hit, and you mentioned at 12, 13 years old. So see how this fits for you. Between the ages when you were first born to before puberty of 12 years old, perhaps you were in this world of innocence and purity before the hormones are hitting at puberty. And you were completely happy and completely with that awareness. And then at age of 12, 13, when hormones hit and puberty, it catapulted you into this other reality of awareness, and that awareness brought all of what you're speaking about. And I've spoke to numerous other people, and this has happened to many other people. A lot of people will reject the suffering, what they don't like. But what I'm hearing you say is you embraced it, because you embraced it because you wanted to come to the clarity of it. You wanted to come to the understanding of what was going on, regardless of how bad it was for you.
Yeah, I think that it's a relatively accurate sort of observation there. As a child, and I've observed this in many other children, I've spent a lot of time around children. Children, generally speaking, are pretty happy. They're pretty present. They're very capable of enjoying themselves and of playing and of expressing themselves. And they really don't think much about, the outside world. They don't think about what's going on in other countries or what the government's doing, politics and money. Much more present, now existence. And that lends to a generally speaking, more free experience of being alive. Definitely when I was, around 12 years old, was significantly becoming way less happy, way less content, a lot more angry, a lot more upset. I was also beginning to sort of look at the world beyond myself, beyond my household, looking at the outside world and just having thoughts about it and contemplating it. So there was a lot of changes, definitely, physical chemistry changes within my body, but also, development of my mind. And, I was definitely embracing the pain and the suffering, in the sense that I wasn't trying to numb myself with drugs or, watch TV all day long or try to forget about the pain. I was living with the pain, but I was suffering because I resented it. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't want to be suffering. I didn't want to be in pain. I didn't want to be depressed, but I was. I would see happy people and I would be like, oh God, you're only happy because you're in denial, because you're ignorant. If you really knew what was going on, if you really knew what, was happening in this world, you wouldn't be happy. And so I'd see happy people and I'd be more upset and more angry. And so I really got to a point where I was so, just so miserable that I just didn't want to be alive at all. I wished I wasn't alive. And when I got to that real bottom low point, it seemed very clear to me that I had to make a choice, and that was to either leave this world or to fully embrace being alive in this world and create something that I'd never seen before, something that was, paradise on earth, something that was a utopia, something that did truly resonate with what I wanted out of life. And this was the most significant choice that I ever made in my life. It was the turning point for my whole life. And I made the choice to dedicate myself to creating something that I'd never seen.
And were you 18, 19 years old around that time?
I was 17 years old at that time.
Okay.
It was the summer after my junior year in high school. I had been going to school since the 8th grade. I was pretty much dead, had no passion, nothing was really going for me. It was just like,
just really a dark, just a dark, uneventful existence for, probably 4 years. And it was in the summer of after my junior year, I made that choice. When I made that choice, I thought to myself, okay, well, how am I going to go about creating, utopia? How am I going to go about creating a whole new paradigm, a whole new world? And the only thing that resonated with me as a realistic path was a spiritual path. I felt like I had to go beyond myself. I felt like I had to go beyond this world. I felt like I had to, go to that place of, what all these philosophers, are always philosophizing about, the meaning of life, the purpose of life, how does life start? Going beyond, going beyond humanity, going beyond the earth, to a much deeper perspective of life itself.
You were going to be doing this for yourself, right? It wasn't about that you were trying to create this for your family or friends or anybody else. It was all about your living here on this earth, what that was going to be for you.
Yeah, and that's really the key facet, is that it was all about myself. I was claiming and taking full responsibility for my existence. I was aware that I was miserable, and I was aware that I didn't want to live a miserable life, and I was aware that no one else could help me. My father loved me, my mother loved me. They weren't living a life that I wanted to have for myself. They didn't have what I needed. Only I had what I needed, which was, finding myself, was finding the true connection with life itself inside of myself. So I dedicated my life to a spiritual path. I also made a choice to channel all of my sexual energy into spirituality. So at that point in time, I was a 17-year-old male. I had never had sex before, but really it was just because I was so shy. I was just so miserable, so antisocial. It wasn't because I didn't have the sex drive. I had plenty of sex drive, plenty of just wasted, unfulfilled, sexual energy. So I channeled all that sexual energy into my spiritual path. And
okay, Quinn, walk me down this path of what you were doing. Did you embrace Tantra at that time, for instance?
No, I didn't embrace Tantra at that time. I had no idea really what that was.
You were working with the Kundalini breath of fire within you, or yoga disciplines?
I didn't know what any of that stuff was. I mean, I was 17 years old. The choices that I were making, it wasn't based on, something that I'd read in a book. It wasn't based on something that somebody told me. It was just sort of an inner revelation. It was just something that I was coming to terms with inside of myself, which was that I was miserable. I didn't want to be miserable anymore. The only way to no longer be miserable is to take responsibility for that and do something about that, and not allow the world to hold me down, to hold me back. And that's part of why I was so miserable, is because I felt like my family, I felt like my society, I felt like the conditions of the earth were keeping me from living the life of my dreams, from being what I wanted to be. And I was pissed off about it. I was angry about it. I was upset about it. I was miserable about it. So I was taking responsibility for that, and I was choosing to do something about that. And the choice that I made was to walk a spiritual path. So I channeled all my sexual energy into spiritual consciousness. And my life immediately began to change. Really, every single day, I was just reading, writing, or meditating. I would, go to the library and just look at books on spirituality, and I would choose one that I felt called by or inspired by. I would start reading it, and then I would, meditate and write, about what I was reading and what was going on inside of me, and I just began this, this totally conscious, responsible journey within inside of myself, and it had nothing to do with what other people were doing with their lives, what other people believed, what other people wanted of me, it had nothing to do with that. It was all about my relationship with myself and with life itself.
Quinn, share with me the most obvious factors that start happening as you start embracing this, and as the suffering start falling away, and the anger and the confusion. Tell me what you start noticing in the very beginning of all of this.
Well, I noticed immediately that I was less miserable. I was suffering less. I actually had something to live for. I actually had purpose. I was actually excited. I was actually motivated. I actually felt like I was making progress, like I was evolving. So all of that was
you know, a huge upgrade. It was way better. My life, just being alive, was automatically beginning to be better. I started getting a lot healthier. I was.
It sounds like that was going hand in hand with your thinking at that time. While you're in the anger and the suffering, your body was being affected also. And then when you changed it all around and your thinking start becoming more balanced, and the key word I want to share with you is I have a sense that you had incredible amounts of freedom where you were not experiencing that before. There was this newfound freedom within you of total openness and total liberation and total celebration of life. The whole thing turned on its head completely.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that it was it really was a complete turnaround. I mean, at that point in time, I was nowhere near as free and healthy and empowered and strong and abundant and, you know, conscious as I am now. But, just weeks after making that decision and devoting my life to a spiritual path, my whole life was changing. Every facet of my whole life was definitely changing. I went from, being super, super shy and completely and totally antisocial to, actually being okay with being around people. I went from being sick to being healthy. I went from being depressed and miserable to being excited and to being inspired. And that was all just because of a shift, just a choice to change my perspective on the life that I was living. So, after this change began to happen, most of what I was doing with my life was reading, writing, and meditating. I started getting healthy, so I started working out at the gym all the time. I was just like super excited to be strong and to not be getting sick and to be able to push my body. So I started working out at the gym all the time, and my energetic frequency was rising. And I have since realized that everything is energy. Everything is energy, and it's always in alignment. And what most people throughout their lives are doing is they're paying attention to the external. They're paying attention to the outside factors, whether it's sunny or whether it's rainy, whether it's hot or whether it's cold, whether someone's being polite or whether someone's being, mean, whether someone's being respectful or disrespectful. And then they're reacting to that, and they're pretending as though those outside circumstances are affecting their experience of being alive. But the real truth is that it is our relationship with ourselves, it is our relationship with life that is actually dictating how every single external experience even manifests to begin with, and what our relationship and what our experience is with that.
That is so very powerful, what you just said right now. We need to just stop for a moment and to digest that.
Yes.
Because that is the be-all and is-all of what you just said right there. It is so true that we as humans are so sensitized to the way people are speaking to us. Are they being rude? Are they being unkind? Are they hurting us? Do they like us? Do they love us? Do they care about us? Are they talking down at us? Are they talking at us? We pay so much attention to that, but we're not paying the attention to what's going on inside of ourselves. The part that really, really matters. Who are we? What can I bring to this world? What love can I bring here? Taking total responsibility for themselves and not looking for themselves outside of themselves. And this is the way the world is.
Life that I wanted to live, what life would I live? And choosing to do that instead of saying, oh, well, I'm married, or I have debt, or I don't have an education, or, the infinite amount of excuses or reasons for why we do what we do. Like, it is possible to truly dedicate our lives to living.
Yes. Okay, let's fast forward to your present life and what happened to catapult you into the spotlight of national attention here. And that would be that the SWAT teams entered your beautiful paradise and your property and your home that you live in. You call it the Garden of Eden. And early in the morning, the SWAT teams came in there.
That was only a year ago, August.
A year ago in August.
So it was August 2nd, 2013.
Right. So here you are living your beautiful, quiet, sustainable, natural, organic, incredible life with your chosen sacred lover and your two little babies, children, and they entered on your property. So please tell me what happened at that moment and why they even came.
Well, you know, the whole reason of why they came is it's a pretty long story in and of itself.
Well, give me the short version of that, please.
It's, you know, it's pretty important. Well, you know, I've been living a very alternative, you know, I've been living a whole new paradigm, a whole new world for quite some time now. You know, so when I was 17 years old, you know, is when I made my choice to dedicate myself to a new paradigm. 31 years old now, so, you know, we're looking at 14 years ago.
Yes.
I haven't had a job in 13 years. I haven't, you know, paid taxes in 13 years. I haven't, you know, I haven't paid for food in 12 years. You know, haven't had a driver's license in, you know, 4 or 5 years. You know, I've been, you know, on a very alternative path for quite some time, and every single day I'm becoming more conscious and more aware and more empowered, and so I'm letting go of more and more of the aspects of the world that are limiting, that are suppressing, that are, you know, regulating, that are, you know, taxing, that are, you know, that slave consciousness. I'm shedding it all. I'm shedding it all. So I started building the Garden of Eden about, you know, 7 years ago, you know, after a vision that I had of a sustainable ecosystem. The Garden of Eden's probably been, you know, kind of like an EcoVillage for, you know, about 4 years. So just over a year ago, we had the raid. A year before that, we, you know, started having some interactions with the city. They basically had no idea that we were here until then. And the reason why that happened is because I started doing all sorts of public outreach. You know, I was, you know, posting videos on YouTube on, you know, how to live a life without paying taxes, how to live a life without using a driver's license, how to, you know, have everything that you want without participating in the system, how to live without buying food, how to live without paying utilities. You know, there's so much information, so much knowledge that gives us the freedom to live a truly abundant and awesome, healthy, beautiful life without actually participating in the system. The whole system is designed to control. Are there benefits of being in that system? I mean, yes, you could see benefits of being in the system, but I mean, really, let's just look at like the healthcare system, for example. You know, it's sick care, it's, you know, remedies, it's surface, you know, stuff that really it actually just makes you more sick. Every single time you take an antibiotic or a pharmaceutical, you don't actually get healthier. Symptoms are just, you know, temporarily, you know, diverted or changed, or there's a numbness to it.
It's not really dealing with the root causes of things, as you're saying.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So,
and also I know of you that you feed homeless. You take all from your produce that you grow on your property, organic, and you make the most delicious food that majority of the people on the planet are not eating that healthy. You take it and feed the homeless. And that is supposed to be against the law now. It's a no-no to do that. But you do it.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, in the United States, there's over 8 million laws. I'm pretty sure that's more than any other country has. So we're living in the land of the free, right? But we've got the most regulation, the most taxation, the most statutes, the most codes to, you know, regulate, to control how these free people are living. So what I'm saying is that the whole system, it's an illusion. The Matrix really is a perfect example. You know, watch that movie. The system in and of itself, the education system, healthcare, you know, the agricultural system where the food comes from, you know, electricity, housing, the cars. You know, we've had technology to have cars that get 150 miles to the gallon for a long time. We've had technology to run cars on water for a long time. We've had technology since Tesla of actually harvesting energy from the electromagnetic field that is always here and converting that into energy to, to power things. So we've had the solutions for a very long period of time, and they're not being utilized because the system, the matrix, is actually manipulating for the purpose of control. And so I've seen that for a long period of time, but instead of fighting it, instead of trying to destroy it, instead of being angry about it, which is where I was as a teenager, pissed off and angry about how, messed up everything is, I chose to dedicate my life to creating paradise. And this is where the Garden of Eden comes in. This is what I've done. I've created this world where, sickness doesn't really exist. And if it does, there's a very natural, holistic, easily available solution that requires no doctor, that requires no money, that requires no prescription, that doesn't degrade the health of the body, but actually uplifts the core health of the body so that we're actually healthier and stronger every single day. I haven't been sick in 13 years. The people here, aren't as healthy as me, so they still get sick sometimes, but it's not very often. They are getting stronger and healthier every single day. I haven't paid for food in 12 years. The people here, nobody here buys any food, pays for any food whatsoever. So every single day they're here, they're coming from a life of paying for food at a grocery store, paying taxes, contributing to shipping and packaging and chemicals and petroleum and megacorp, profit, and they're completely letting go of all of that. So we're alchemizing, all of this into this whole new paradigm. And so we are living a life where we don't pay for food, where we have everything that we need, energy, water, food, shelter. One of the also most important things that most people don't have is that we have this community. We have these people here where we love each other, we respect each other, we listen to each other, we support each other. Fighting doesn't really exist. Arguing doesn't really exist. Yelling doesn't really exist. And if there ever is some sort of a disagreement or ever some sort of a problem, we look at it as problems are simply opportunities for solutions.
Quinn, let's return back to the moment when the SWAT team came into your property and the authorities, and you came to their attention via YouTube, feeding the homeless. They heard about you via that way. You came to their attention. So what actual legal grounds did they have to come into your property?
Well, it's really interesting because they started investigating us. They sent undercover cops here. They would fly helicopters over our land. They would send, employees, city employees, that would patrol, on the outskirts of our fences on a very regular basis. They sent us all sorts of citations, for ridiculous stuff like grass that's too long, wood that's improperly stacked, the misuse of an extension cord, all sorts of just really ridiculous stuff. And one of the things that I've been doing is studying the law. And what I have found is that there is law, and actually the foundation of law in our country is based on freedom. So one of the maxims in law is that any law that is repugnant to a supreme law or an inherent right is void ab initio. So the truth is that people are living by all these statutes and all these codes and all these permits because they think that they have to, but they're giving jurisdiction to this corporate entity, and therefore they're in private contract with them. So anyways, I was using law to prove to them that they couldn't force us to cut our grass because this was how we fed our family. This is what our livelihood was. It was our pursuit of our happiness. It was our spiritual path. And they tried to enforce it, but they couldn't. And for a year, they couldn't enforce it. The court couldn't do it. There was nothing that they could do to enforce it.
There you are, early in the morning, in bed with your beloved woman and 2 children and various other guests on your property, and they're coming in against you in this mindset. Instead of coming knocking on your door to talk to you or inviting you to the sheriff's office to talk to you, or they're coming in this manner. And what did they do?
What's really sad too is we actually contacted the sheriff, and we told the sheriff, we said, hey, we're having a dispute with the city. you're our elected official that is supposed to be serving and protecting our freedom. We feel in danger. We feel like we're being threatened. We need to have a meeting with you. We need an investigation upon this. We're honorable people. We're here to have a resolution. We're here to talk about it. We're here to communicate.
Did they agree to this meeting?
No, they didn't. He didn't even write us back. He just completely and totally ignored it like he never got it. Really every single step of the way. I mean, we followed due process of law.
Let's do a conclusion of this. I just want to know what it felt like and what happened to your property as the SWAT team were there. And we'll do a conclusion on that because I want to get really back and spend this time, this quality time with the intelligence and the beauty of you. So,
right.
So let's do that. What actually happened? What did they do to your property? Did they tear it apart and looking for what?
Right, so on the morning of August 2nd, 2013, I'm actually the only one that's awake. And I hear some commotion in the front part of our land. And I mean, I'm very aware, very sensitive. So my intuition sort of leads me to investigate. I go to the front door and I peek my head out the front door and I literally see like a swarm of these fully battle ready, fully blacked out bulletproof shields, full black Kevlar gear, fully loaded assault rifles, and they're just flooding into the land. They're, coming from all directions. I can see, that there's like cop cars and, SWAT vehicles and stuff all down all the roads. And so as soon as I see that, I know what's happening. I shut the door, and my first thought is of my children. It's really the only thing that I care about at all. I'm not scared per se. I'm not worried about what's going to happen to me or the land or anything. All I care about is these children. At this point in time, my youngest, Noki, she was only 2 weeks old. She was born here in the Garden of Eden. She's never been to a doctor. She's never had a shot. She's never, been on any medicine. She's never been in a crib. She's never been fed from a bottle. She's never been away from her mother. And they're asleep upstairs. They're, it's in the middle of the summer. We don't use air conditioning or anything like that. So they're asleep naked in their beds, just in total peace, total tranquility. It's my immediate thought. So I run, through the house. I run upstairs and, I go into our bedroom and I wake up a Nook and I say, there's a raid and we've only got, 30 seconds to a minute before they're going to be up here. So you need to prepare yourself. You need to calm yourself. She's woken up to this. So of course she's a bit terrified. She's panicking a little bit. And, all I tell her, because there's not time to make any plans. There's not time to really do anything. So all I'm trying to do is energetically prepare her so that she's in an energetic alignment with well-being, so that no matter what happens, the results will be the well-being of her and the well-being of her children. Everything is energy and it's all in alignment. So I'm just making sure that her energetic frequency is not resonating with fear. It's not resonating with desperation, that she's not going to do anything, react, that she's going to be, clear and embodied in her awareness. So
how did they enter into your front door?
Well, we have multiple doors, so they come in through all the doors. They've got their, walkie-talkie things. I mean, they've practiced this whole thing. They've been briefed. They have,
yes.
Google Air Maps. They've got, all sorts of photos.
Did they knock on your door?
Oh, no. Not only did they not knock on the doors, but I mean, they busted down our front gate. We had a front gate that was locked.
And they busted down your front door?
Yeah.
Okay, and then when they came in the house, how did they address you? What did they want you to do at that moment, when the very first contact with you and the others in the house?
Well, we're the last ones that they come up to, because we're on the top. We're upstairs, so it's the last place. They secure the premises first. They secure the bottom floor first. So, they bust into each room where there's different people sleeping in different rooms. They bust in. Police. Put your hands up or get on the ground. They handcuff everybody. They're screaming, they're yelling, they're giving orders, they're making demands. They immediately start interrogating people. How many people are here? Are there any guns? Blah blah blah. Things like that.
And were there any guns on the property that were licensed or not licensed?
No, there was no guns, not a single gun on this land, licensed or unlicensed. And this is just another big part of the really horrific part of the whole thing, is that they were briefed and they were told before the raid even happened that we were extremely dangerous, that we were drug trafficking cartel, that we were highly armed. I mean, this is how they were briefed, and this is how they're treating us. They're treating us like the worst of the worst. Like, they're coming in here, fucking amped up. They're amped up on, they're Marines. They've killed people before. They're coming in here as though it's an extremely dangerous environment, that they're going to potentially be met by hostiles with guns. I mean, that's how they're briefed, and that's how they're coming in. So they come in like that. They're, putting people on the ground, putting handcuffs on people, securing the premises. They know there's an upstairs room, so they're down at the bottom of the stairs, and they're shouting, come down from outstairs with your hands up. How many people are up there? And so, I'm with Anouk, and I'm just, energetically, finding that resonance of peace, just telling her, it's going to be okay. Don't do anything. Don't say anything. Just take deep breaths. Don't make any, just be at peace. Just be at peace. Everything will be fine. So I shout down to them. I said, there's 2 adults and 2 children up here. There's a two-week-old nursing baby. We have no guns. There will be no resistance. There's nothing to worry about. And, they're just still yelling, come down with your hands up, come down with your hands up. And I don't come down for like a good 30 seconds because I just keep talking back to them, because of what I'm doing is I'm establishing an energetic rhythm, an energetic resonance, whether they know that it's happening or not. And the energy is changing, So I'm just telling them, I'm going to come down. I'm going to come down with my hands up. There's nothing to worry about. There's a 2-week-old nursing baby up here with a mother and her sister. There's no danger. There's no guns. There's no problem. It's all going to be fine. I just basically keep repeating these things, very slowly as I slowly come closer and closer. So I get to the top of the stairs where they can, see my hands up above my head. And as I get closer, my whole body comes into view. I'm just wearing, a pair of silk shorts, which is pretty much what I wear all summer long. And as soon as I get to the top of the stairs, they're like, come down. And so, I come down. As soon as I get down, they push me up against the wall, put handcuffs on me,
Did they arrest anybody that day? Did they take anybody physically off the property and put anybody in jail?
Yeah, so they put everybody in a circle, and, they're interrogating people. I start telling everybody about our rights and about due process of law and blah, blah, blah. As soon as I start doing that, they immediately grab me and separate me from the group. They already know who I am. They've already got my profile and everything. I don't give them any information. They arrest me for supposed unpaid traffic ticket, which I wind up getting dismissed, like a couple weeks later. So they arrest me for something that's completely and totally unrelated. They don't show a warrant when they show up. It's over 2 hours later, after I'm already gone, that they show a warrant. And the warrant that they have is for, it's drug trafficking. The warrant that they have that's signed by a judge is for drug trafficking. So what the warrant is for is to find drugs. And it says, that, there's going to be piles of cash, that there's going to be, living plants, that there's going to be packaged marijuana, that there's going to be guns, that there's going to be all sorts of documentation of the trafficking process, blah, 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 blah. They don't find a single thing, not a single thing do they find in their warrant that is in their warrant, not a single thing. They don't make a single charge based on anything in their warrant.
So Quinn, at one point when they did not find that, did they apologize to you before they left the property?
No, they didn't apologize, and not only did they not apologize, but the SWAT team leaves. All the drug agents and things like that, they all leave, and then this code enforcement abatement team comes in, and they come in with tractors and weed whackers and trailers and trucks and mowers, and they just come in and they cut down our crops. They steal
crops. What kind of crops, Quinn?
They cut down blackberries. They cut down sweet potatoes. They cut down lamb's quarter. They cut down okra. They cut down tomatillo plants.
And why? What was their thinking? Do you think? Why would they be doing that?
Well, the reason why they're doing that is because of tall grass, and they're just sort of including it in the tall grass. They didn't cut down every single crop we had. They just cut down portions of the crops that we had. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. It doesn't matter what perspective you look at. And actually, the more information you get about the whole thing, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours about all sorts of details that just makes it more and more and more and more ridiculous. Every lawyer that's looked at it thinks it's ridiculous. I mean, everybody that looks at it, you know, is like, oh my God, you know, this is just a total atrocity. It's just pathetic.
Right. So was there a conclusion to it, Quinn? Did you go to court about it, and is it still in court, or what is the final of what happened with it?
Well, it's still not finalized yet, and it's a very difficult, complicated process. And again, this is part of the system. The system is designed to make it extremely difficult. It's designed to keep anybody without having tons of money and powerful connections from really being able to get any sort of justice or any sort of remedy. Any municipal operation has what's called municipal tort immunities. So any officer, any agent, anybody that's working for a municipality, as long as they're on the clock, as long as they're doing their job, then they have full immunities under municipal tort laws. Trying to sue a city is also an extremely difficult process, extremely time-consuming, extremely expensive. The whole judicial system has been set up to cost a ton of money and to cost a ton of time. There's all sorts of little loopholes and all sorts of statutes and codes that allow lawyers and attorneys to be able to do all these little things. So it's an extremely complicated, difficult process. You've got all these judges, who are actually working for and getting paid by the same people that the attorneys are and the police officers are. So they're all it's all a conspiracy. They're all being paid by the same people. So it's in all of their best interest, to have things go a certain way. So it's extremely difficult. We did a lot of research. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out what to do. We did wind up getting a very capable, a very competent attorney that wants to take this on. Spent a lot of time, researching and preparing. We haven't actually filed a lawsuit yet, but our plan is to file a lawsuit. We've got 2 years from the event in and of itself, according to the statutes, to be able to file a lawsuit. So we've still got time. So we do plan on seeking justice, because even now, after all the TV interviews, after all the news interviews, after all the radio interviews, after all the articles, after tens of thousands of people around the world have said this is pathetic, this is ridiculous, they still have not made a single apology. They're still sticking to their whole thing of, this was standard procedure, we didn't do anything wrong, blah, blah, blah. We had, proper information to justify what we did.
Are they, Quinn, are they continuing to have surveillance on your property, make their presence known, or are they totally backed off?
They have backed off for the most part. We still see like city vehicles that'll drive by on a pretty regular basis. It's hard to say whether they are here for us or not. I mean, I would say that they are, sort of keeping an eye on what's going on. We do see helicopters fly over from time to time. But we've also, we've made a lot of, arrangements to make our place way more secure. We require anybody that comes on the land to sign contracts so that undercover, officers and stuff can't get on. But they for the most part pretty much left us alone for now. I mean, they look really bad. They got a lot of really bad PR. They wasted a ton of money. I mean, this whole operation cost them $250,000 plus. That was all taxpayer money. Not a single charge, not a single confiscation. I mean, it was just a completely and totally botched, process from the whole thing. So, they're definitely backing off. They're, not feeling too good about it. But on the day of the raid, they wrote, $5,000 worth of citations while they were here for all sorts of ridiculous stuff, whatever they could find, a citation for. And they didn't drop those. They tried to enforce those charges. Took us through the whole process. We went to court with it, and they, did all of this really, just really dishonorable, corrupt stuff, enforce the charges. We're still supposed to pay them. I won't ever pay them. There's no way that will happen. But, I mean, they have not apologized. They didn't return any of our stuff that they stole. They didn't plant any of our crops. They didn't give us any seeds, any, plants to replant. They didn't make any apologies. And they still tried to enforce all of these citations that they wrote. They didn't dismiss them or let them go. So, they haven't sent another raid. So in that sense, they've backed off. But they haven't made any amends. So as far as I'm concerned, we still have a problem.
Well, Quinn, we just have a few moments left, and I'd like to really get back to you and the Garden of Eden and the golden trinity that you speak about.
Yes.
And your whole way of your life now, of being 31 years old and being responsible and being very aware and conscious and very loving and very a man of peace and honor and great, great love for everybody and all. And as you sit with that and that is who you are, share with me what this lifestyle is all about and who you are.
So again, my number one purpose is to be at peace with inside of myself, to be in love within myself, to be in harmony with life itself. That's my number one goal, and I don't want to be a part of things that compromise that. With that being said, my number two goal is to be able to share that with anybody that's ready, anybody that's searching, anybody that's looking, anybody that wants a new paradigm, a new world, that wants to change. So I have devoted my life to that for many years now. The Garden of Eden is one of the ways that I do that. We've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people come here for a couple hours, for a day, for a couple weeks, for years. We fed homeless people. We've done all sorts of outreach beyond here. So that's been very successful in and of itself. But for me, I am inspired to do so much more. So I am inspired to, take the Garden of Eden global, to share this new paradigm with as many people as possible. I have no desire to change or to manipulate or to force or to coerce anybody to anything, just to simply provide a truly healthy, a truly free, a truly sustainable, a truly abundant, a truly beautiful, love-filled life for anybody that's interested. So
give me an idea of the agreement when people come to your property, of what that agreement would be, an overview of it. I know you have many points in it, so just give me an overview of it, please.
Well, the basis that we have with the agreement that everyone comes here, we do have, it's like a 7-page contract of which people have to sign. Mm-hmm. But the basis of it is truth and honor, authenticity, accountability, responsibility. So what we really want is when people come here, we need people to be honest. Don't pretend to be anything that you're not. If you haven't done something before, if you're not good at something, don't pretend that you are. Don't try to impress anybody. Don't try to be anything that you're not. Just be real with who you are. If you're upset about something, if you disagree with something, if you have a problem, if you feel bad, express it. Talk about it. We can't address anything. We can't deal with anything. We can't alchemize a solution for something that's not addressed, that's not brought to the table. So authenticity, responsibility. We don't blame people. Don't blame the environment. If you get sick, don't blame anybody else. Don't blame anything but yourself. You're in disconnection with your own well-being, and that's why you're sick. And so the only way to get truly healthy is to connect and to love and to heal yourself within.
So essentially, what you're saying is own it.
Own it up, yep, and take responsibility for it and actually do something. We need people here to be progressively evolving. We evolve extremely quickly. I evolve extremely quickly. Being here is a very intense vortex. So we need people that are capable of changing, people that are capable of death and birth, where evolution is taking place. If people aren't evolving, if people aren't getting stronger and happier and more focused and more responsible, then the vortex is just going to spit them out. They're not going to be able to last. So we need people that can evolve. We need people to, be accountable to their word. One of the things in the contract that it says is that your verbal agreements are binding contracts. We need people to be conscious of what they're actually saying, and we need people to be responsible and accountable to what it is they say. So if someone says that they're going to do something or not going to do something, we require that those people fulfill that. Now, of course, nobody's perfect. People make mistakes. People forget about stuff. But it's not acceptable in the sense that it's supported and allowed to perpetuate. It's something that's addressed. It's something that's looked at, and evolution has to be made. So, again, making mistakes is fine as long as it's not repetitive mistakes, as long as those same mistakes aren't being made, as long as evolution is taking place, as long as people are becoming more competent every single day. That's the best that we can do.
So in talking with you, I see that you are the real deal. You are living the life of authentic truth. And I look at the reality shows on television, and I see them as being hyped up as being something that is trying to be something similar or represent what you are actually living in the authenticness. And they seem to be full of sensationalism and hype and really no answers. There's a show that I was very much forward looking to. It's called Utopia. I saw several seasons of it that were launched, putting together 20 people on this plot of land together, and they're going to come up with the world answers and solutions for humanity, to save humanity. I saw the show. I was completely disappointed. It was all about this nonsense and ridiculousness and this drama and this full onslaught of giving really no answers to anything. Now, I don't know how it's going to progress. From what I've seen, I was not happy. I've seen numerous other shows, and again, they were touted as being something that's going to be of consciousness and awareness, groups of people coming together. Disappointment. I see you as living and being the full embodiment of it and the truth of it, and the best example that I've ever seen in my life. So I applaud you for being who you are, what you are, having the courage and the conviction to live your life and be totally, totally awake and totally, totally inspiring to so many other people. And I really thank you from the bottom of my heart, Quinn. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just have 2 minutes left here, in the very final moments. What would you like to share that you would like to share with others that was dearly important to you?
Well, the most important thing is to have hope in yourself and in life itself. Anything is possible. There is nothing that is impossible. There is just simply realities that we're not in alignment with. There is no need to strive for an ideal per se. There's no need to live by ideas. Ideas are actually pure limitations. The true power is in the now. The true power is in taking a breath, and rather than trying to find gratitude for, say having a house, or say having a car, or having money in the bank, or any external thing, actually feel gratitude just for the sake of feeling gratitude. Feel love just for the sake of feeling love. Take a deep breath and be grateful to be able to breathe just for the sake of being alive. That's where the true power is. Everything is energy and everything is in alignment. If we become conscious and empowered enough to actually consciously resonate our vibration, the entire world around us has to fall into alignment with that vibration. And the SWAT raid is a really good example of how something horrible and bad can actually be a great thing. Everything, the whole foundation for that raid was a complete violation of my rights, a complete atrocity, just a really pathetic, horrible thing. Yet the results of that entire thing have wound up being a blessing. My life is better now because of it. This community's life is better because of it. And there are tens of thousands of people around the world that are now aware of the new paradigm, that are now aware of the Garden of Eden because of this raid. So everything is a blessing. All problems are simply opportunities for solutions. Anything that appears to be bad is just a blessing that we have not realized, that we haven't embraced as a blessing. When we begin to live consciously and resonate in a frequency of love for the sake of love, despite the world around us, despite what is happening, without needing a reason to do that, that's when we become empowered, and that's when life becomes this vortex of awesomeness.
Well, thank you, Quinn, very much. Thank you, thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure to speak with you, and I look forward to doing numerous shows in the future with you from the Art of Conscious Living. Thank you.
Blessings.
And from the Art of Conscious Living, please do take care of yourselves and take care of others.